Hi guys, hope you're doing well and welcome to today's video. This is actually a video which I have intended to do for the longest time. I don't even know why I've delayed posting this or filming this for so long. It's a positive thing, I guess, but it can take a bit mentally to kind of work yourself up to really tell such a story. So I'm going to talk about my journey with binge eating and how I came out onto the other end. For those of you who don't know, binge eating is an eating disorder. For me, it was never bulimia, it was never vomiting, but it was overeating in periods and then also restricting myself in other periods. So I'm going to tell that story, and it's really nothing that, you know, I want to hide. It's nothing that I feel as though people can't benefit from hearing. It's just like I feel like I haven't really said this out loud really that many times, and I feel like, well, obviously I've never actually filmed this before, filmed me saying this. So yeah, by God's grace, let's really get into this, and I hope it's able to help anybody, somebody, just with anything that they're dealing with. Okay, so I know for a lot of people, an eating disorder is actually something that is connected to a lack of body positivity. For other people, what might drive them is, you know, feeling as though they're in control of their diet, or, you know, there are just many different reasons that could lead somebody into an eating disorder. And so for me, let me just go back to where it really all began. Surprisingly, it all began with, I guess, the way I saw myself. I was always a very skinny child, to be honest. Like growing up, I was just known to be skinny, you know. Everybody was like, yeah, that's T, that's the skinny one, you know. I was just naturally skinny. I actually ate so poorly, to be honest, as a child. Like my diet was just, I had a lot of junk food, to be honest, but naturally I was just very skinny, had a high metabolism. Like as a child, you know, certain people are actually just naturally skinny, and that was me. And so I actually entered a beauty pageant when I was around 15 years old. And yeah, I really was like, obviously I can take this out, you know, I got this, you know, I got the looks, you know, whatnot. And it was a great experience, but you know, I did not win, I did not place, nothing like that. And so I think that was when I first started to actually shift in the way I saw myself, because I never really saw myself in a negative light. And I don't know if that's a cocky thing to say, to be honest, but when I was younger, you know, I didn't really see myself in a negative way until that happened, and I was kind of disappointed in myself. I really felt like I'd let everybody down, because I even had family and friends fly over to support me. And yeah, just not even placing, like, it made me feel negative about myself. But I did realize that the part that I did enjoy the most about the competition was modeling. So I took lots of photos. I applied for so many different modeling agencies, like even the really dodgy ones that honestly they could be taken in somebody's basement. Like I applied for all of them, and I got rejected from literally every single one of them. And the reason for that was actually because I was not tall enough. Like at that time I was roughly 169 centimeters, but I was very thin. I just wasn't necessarily the height. And even for modeling jobs that I would apply for that were actually not even runway, you know, that were for commercial work, anything like that, all of them rejected me. And so to be honest, I was actually just stuck, you know, sitting with this feeling of rejection. I was rejected. I felt rejected at the beauty pageant. I felt rejected by countless modeling agencies. And then the thing that sucked the most was that everybody would be like, oh, Tendo the model, you know, Tendo the model, because they saw me do a pageant. I wasn't actually doing modeling. I just did a beauty pageant. And so anytime somebody would call me a model and, you know, compliment my body, say anything, I would kind of just deflect. And I literally remember this time where somebody actually said, wow, Tender, you're so like controlled in your eating, and you're so good with, you know, what you eat. And like just hearing that, I just, like, it made me deflect. And I can't even tell you why, you know, I just, hearing all these things about me which I didn't feel were true, and like hearing people say, you know, wow, you're such a model, you know, I was like, look, if the world isn't going to see me as a model, then why should I see myself that way too? And so yeah, I literally remember hearing somebody say that to me, and just to kind of go against it, I picked up 2 cookies, and I didn't even want those cookies. Like I just picked them up and I ate them to kind of be like, you know, what do you mean I'm a model? Like, look, I just eat whatever, you know what I mean? So like at the time when I was actually applying for, you know, modeling agencies, I was actually looking after myself. I was, you know, trying to eat cleaner. I was working out, and so I was skinny, but like a skinny toned person, I don't know. And so when I kind of just had that moment where I kind of gave up on myself, I would just literally eat whatever I wanted, and I gained weight pretty quickly. I think by the time I was like 16, I had gained like an extra 10 kilograms or something like that. And I actually wasn't even overweight from having had gained those 10 kilograms, because I was actually very skinny before. It's just that I looked like an average weight for my height. And for me, I was never used to ever looking average. You know, I was always used to looking very skinny. I was used to being, you know, on that end of the spectrum. And so just looking average, like I started to hate the way my body looked. And you know, nobody will really ever attack you more than yourself. And so in my mind, I just was sitting with that rejection, which I hadn't really dealt with from the competition and from, you know, all the modeling agencies. And I was sitting with that rejection. I was like deflecting and kind of self-sabotaging myself. And now I was in this moment where I was just sitting there with rejection and 10 kilograms extra on myself. And yeah, it kind of sucks, but I thought part of my identity was in the way I looked. And so I was just used to always being the skinny girl. So not being the skinny girl, I was like, who am I? Like, I was not even overweight. I was not obese. Just not being skinny, I was like, it just didn't sit well with me. And so I then started going down this road of trying to lose weight in every way possible. If there is a diet that you have heard of, I can guarantee you I tried it. Literally from as early as the age of 16, it could have even been 15, I was dieting. Like any weight loss ad, anything that would promise me to look skinnier in 3 days, in, you know, 2 weeks, in this and that, like in a short period, any diet, any fad, I tried it. Different like items. To be honest, I'm not even going to get into it into depth as to the different things I did to try and lose weight, but yeah, there was so much. And I had the worst relationship with my body. Like, even if people didn't realize it, even though I actually did try to hide it a lot, that I was dieting so hard, people didn't know just how much I resented being in my body. Like, I just remember, you know, all the different times when I didn't go out to eat, when, you know, everybody was enjoying all this food, and I would sneak into my room to just eat something so limited. And a lot of the diets I was trying were not healthy. I would see short-term results, but it was really nothing that was a long-term lasting change. And I don't know about you guys if you've ever dieted before, but sometimes, you know, when you diet, you sometimes trip up on your diet and you make a mistake and you eat something that you weren't supposed to eat, or you see your results and you're not so happy and you just end up going back to eating as much food as you want, or all the food that you were depriving yourself of. And that kind of is what happened with me. Like, I would try diet after, like, you guys have to realize this was over the period of years. Like, it started at like 15, 16, and it was over the period of years. Like, I just never had good body positivity. It was me either being obsessed with scales, counting calories. I would watch YouTube video after YouTube video on how to lose weight. I would buy product after product, and I was only really working at like Kmart and Kohl's, but the money I earned, I would put it towards, you know, hopefully getting back to that skinny version of myself. And so yeah, this is how it would go. It would be, I would look in the mirror, I would not be happy with the way I looked, I would try a diet, I would struggle with the diet, and then at the end I would just end up, you know, stumbling, accidentally having something I shouldn't have, or my body was just so desperate for food and I would have something that was not a part of the diet, and then I would be like, well, you know what, I've actually stuffed up this diet, I may as well just splurge and just enjoy the rest of this day, have all the food that I'm not supposed to have, and then restart another diet the following day. And so it was a proper constant cycle of me dieting and dieting. Like, I think I actually forgot how to just eat like a normal person, because if I wasn't dieting, then I didn't know how everybody else just comfortably ate. And so my relationship with food actually took a turn for the worse, because You know, when I used to see food as something that gave me nutrients, I would only see numbers. I would see, okay, that has this many calories, that has this many calories, this has this much carbs. I would honestly just look at food and label it, all right, this is good food, this is bad food, this is healthy food, and this is unhealthy food. When in reality, all types of food can be good or bad in itself, depending on how much you're having of it. You know, would you really say to have a slice of cake on someone's birthday is a bad thing? But then you could say to have, you know, 10 avocados in one sitting, that could be a bad thing. It's not necessarily that food is bad. It's just, you know, I guess how much we have of it in a set moment. And these are things that I actually kind of had to relearn during therapy, but that's something I'll get to in a little bit. But basically, this is how binge eating actually began for me. It began because I was dieting so much and I was restricting my eating so much, and I was kind of punishing my body. And then anytime I stumbled, I would binge eat. Like, I would honestly, I think a lot of people don't really understand the extent of binge eating, because you actually feel as though you do not have control. At some point, it just became an automatic response for me. Like, it's not that I wanted to eat so much food, it's just I got into such a cycle of eating so much after stuffing up with a diet and eating so much after my body lacked all those nutrients, that it really became an automatic response and such an issue. And yeah, like I was saying, I don't think a lot of people realize that binge eating can be quite intense. Like, I don't even want to get into how much food I really ate in like each sitting, because I honestly had to go to my bedroom. Like, I had to shut my door. I couldn't even be around people in the moments when I was binge eating. I couldn't even think like about what I was doing in that moment. I had to be like watching something on my laptop. I had to just be out of my world, because if I focused on what I was doing, like, I hated myself. And the thing that sucks the most is that after an episode of binge eating, you just kind of sit there and you feel so bad about yourself. Like, I felt so depressed about myself that, oh my gosh, Tendo, why did you stuff up again? Why? Like, I honestly hated myself, but I never even saw it as an eating disorder. I just would say, you know what, I did bad today, but it's okay, because tomorrow I'll do better and I'll get back on top of dieting, or I just won't eat, you know, that much at all. And, you know, it just wasn't healthy. And a lot of this was an internal battle, to be honest, because in my eyes, I honestly felt like worthless. Like, I didn't even enjoy being myself. And so eventually I actually stopped, you know, dieting so much. I stopped checking the scales, and that took so much time. That took years, because quite honestly, when you develop a bad habit, like, it takes time to, you know, learn to undevelop those habits and replace them with healthier ones. So although I was easing up on my dieting and, you know, the things I was buying to lose weight, I found that I honestly couldn't even go a week without binge eating. I actually anticipated myself binge eating. And a lot of people would actually say that I'm a pretty positive person. You know, even I would say I'm a pretty positive person, but no one really saw just how dark things got in my mind during those times. Like, I don't want to say that I was on the verge of depression or anything like that, but to be honest, I was. Like, even going to university, I took that eating disorder with me. It really only wasn't until 2018 that I shook off binge eating. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it is when it's basically like every week, every 2 weeks, every 10 days, you know. You think you're doing so well. You think you're looking after yourself. You think, wow, I've actually cut back how much I've been eating, and then you just fall and you stumble. And so yeah, in 2018, I did enter Miss Universe Australia, and I did get through as a national finalist. And quite honestly, I'm so thankful for that competition, because I think knowing that I had that competition is the reason why I didn't binge as heavily as I could have in that first year of uni. I honestly hated the way my body looked, and I was still binging 100%. It's just I was also working out and eating quite healthy, so I didn't necessarily put on weight to make me overweight or obese or anything. But it was still just that thing I struggled with. And so because I never actually took a moment to really deal with the way I felt about my self-worth, when I didn't actually win the Miss Universe competition, I kind of came back home and I had this, you know, mentality that, you know, I'm a failure, and I honestly just deplugged from everything. After the competition, it was the darkest week of my life, and that is genuinely when I actually hit rock bottom. Because usually it was that I could at least last a week without binge eating, but after the competition I had a full week, like a full week from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. It was binge eating. And I mean eating to the point where I literally could have vomited. My story about my eating disorder could have been a lot different. It could have been bulimia, but I didn't even know how to like make myself vomit the food back up. And to be honest, I actually saw that as a negative thing. I was like, wow, Tender, you can't do anything right in life. You can't even vomit correctly. And so my story with binge eating was that I was just binge eating and that food sat within me. So literally that week after the competition, I didn't go out, I didn't see anybody. I literally just stayed in my room and I just binged from morning until night. And my stomach, honestly guys, like I looked pregnant.
It is morning time. I've just woken up.
I'm not even trying to suck out or anything. This is just it. And I remember so clearly this day when I was supposed to have uni. And it was after I had a binging episode and I couldn't even leave my bed. Like, I just stayed in bed in the dark and I couldn't even leave my house. Like, I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I felt about myself, to be honest. A lot of it was in my mind. Like, I hated myself. I just wish so badly that I could be anybody else. I wish that I could just disappear, like. And I guess unless you really, you know, felt so negatively about yourself, you might not really understand why, you know, this seems so dramatic and stuff. But no, honestly and wholeheartedly, the thought of having to be around other people and them being able to visibly see that I've put on weight, like, I just rather the thought of isolating myself from everyone. And you know, before any of you guys say, well, you're a Christian, you should have prayed about this, like, I prayed about this a lot. I prayed about this so much. I prayed about this, I fasted about this, I took it to God, and I was like, why can I just not be normal? Why can I not just have a good relationship with food? Why can I not just see myself more favorably? Why can I not just feel good about myself and look good? And so I don't want to hear anybody tell me that, you know, I should have just taken it to God, because I did, you know. And to be honest, like, when I was binging, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I honestly didn't even want to talk to God, but I knew deep down that he was with me in it. Even though I would go through such depressing moments, you know, I knew that God was still with me in it. He didn't take me out of the eating disorder just instantly, but you know, I knew even when I was binging, I knew even when I was going through the rough times, even though I wasn't acknowledging God, I knew he was still there with me. I couldn't necessarily see it always, but the thing that really gave me hope was that God surely was going to bring me through and was going to be able to use this to help somebody else. Like, I just kept holding on to the hope that God, while I hate this, while I hate what I'm going through, I believe that someday you're going to use this for good. I feel like I always knew that I needed to get help. Like, there would be times when I was binging and I'd say, you know, I need to actually get help. I need to get help. But I never did anything about it. And I honestly didn't even see it as an eating disorder, because I thought an eating disorder was only, you know, if you're starving yourself or making yourself vomit. I didn't really know just how much of a wide range there are of eating disorders. And so, yeah, it wasn't until that week after the competition where 7 days of purely just binging, not leaving my house. And I was actually watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And it was an episode where Captain Holt was struggling with gambling. And he was not able to overcome that on his own. On his own, he just kept spiraling down. It wasn't until the crew actually helped him that he was actually able to overcome that. And for me, that was as loud as anything, as a clear sign that I'm not going to get anywhere trying to deal with this on my own. I was like, you know what? This time I actually need to go and get help. And so I don't even know how, but by God's grace alone, I found this advertisement about an experiment actually going on where they were offering CBT training for anyone dealing with an eating disorder. I was like, an experiment? Like, I'm not trying to be treated like a lab rat, but it was for free. So I actually jumped on it. I prayed about it. I prayed so much about it. I was like, God, please, please, may this not be something where they're insensitive and they just treat me like a lab rat or something. Like, may I actually, you know, be able to overcome this eating disorder through this program. And so I actually signed up for that, and I was assigned to the best therapist I honestly could have asked for. Like, if it turned out that she was really an angel in disguise, like, I wouldn't even be surprised. She was absolutely amazing. Like, you could tell that it wasn't even like an experiment. Like, you could tell that she was genuinely a psychologist who actually wanted to help me and make sure that I got to a better place. So yeah, I actually had to catch a bus every Monday, a 1 hour bus to get to the place where the therapy sessions happened, and then a 1 hour bus back home. Thankfully, Mondays I didn't have uni, so it actually worked out pretty well. But yeah, that first session, I remember it just being me talking basically about how it all began, how I feel, and actually being listened to. And it was the first time where I was really able to pinpoint where it all began for me and just the different things that trigger me. These sessions happened over the period of months actually, and as I kept coming in for, you know, each session would talk, I'll get different booklets and different readings. And you know, the thing with CBT therapy is that a lot of it is about the mind, and although I wasn't necessarily seeing a clear difference, like I wasn't seeing that I instantly stopped binging the minute I went for my first therapy session, I was noticing that the booklets, the readings, being able to talk, it was shifting the way I saw myself and my body positivity. Like, I can truly say that the eating disorder did not stop before all these negative thoughts and accusations about myself had to stop in my mind. And it was definitely not an overnight thing. Like, I didn't just come to therapy one day and say, oh my gosh, I love my body, woohoo. Like, it was so gradual, and I started having to track down the foods I was eating. And you know, she started to realize that, okay, Tendo, you're actually not even eating that much. Like, I can understand why you'd be binging if, you know, for one of the days, for example, I literally didn't eat anything, and then it's like at the end of the night I just binged. And she's like, I can see why, you know, the binging happened. It's because of so much restriction, and then you labeling these foods as good and bad, and then if you have something that's bad, you feel like, oh my gosh, I've stuffed up, let me just enjoy this day and just binge, instead of just having that bad food and just enjoying it at that moment and moving on with my life. So yeah, I had to track what I was eating, and then I had to start, you know, making meal plans. She had to go over what healthy eating portions are. I even had to go see a GP just to have, you know, all my tests done to make sure that I was at least healthy. And yeah, I even had to like step onto the scales, which I hated a lot, to be honest. Like, I only ever enjoyed stepping onto that scale if I knew that week I hadn't eaten that much and I would lose weight. Because yeah, I'd actually gained so much weight from all that binging. Like, I don't even have scales in my house, and it's staying that way, but just to have to step on that scale and to really see the impact of it all, like, it devastated me. And so week in, week out, we're doing all these different things to help me in the way I saw myself, to help me, you know, curve this whole eating disorder, to analyze my thought patterns, and just a whole heap of different things to help me grow and to actually help me overcome the eating disorder. I think I will actually do another video where I pull out the folder that I had, you know, tracking my progress along the way, just so you guys can also see that too. But yeah, to be honest, there were times when I would go to these therapy sessions and I was thinking like, what am I doing? Honestly, like, I'm still binging, I'm still struggling, like, I haven't changed. And a lot of my intentions for even going to these therapy sessions were to no longer binge eat so that I could look skinny again. But I guess kind of as we were going along these therapy sessions, my priorities shifted and I wanted to be healthy more than just looking healthy. And so yeah, I can't even tell you how many therapy sessions I had where I had to keep coming back and say, yep, I binged this week, I binged once, I binged twice. You know, there was not a week when I showed up and I hadn't binged. Honestly, it was just such an automatic response for me at that point. I felt so broken and I didn't even see a light at the end of the tunnel. But believe it or not, I actually started to see myself in a more favorable light. I actually started to accept my body, not because I looked skinny again, but because even if I didn't feel like it, you know, I deserved to live a life where I didn't hate myself and I didn't wish I was somebody else. And we all deserve to live a life where, you know, we don't hate ourselves, where we actually can accept who we are and love ourselves regardless of whether we make mistakes or not. And so yeah, these therapy sessions were something that I did on my own. I didn't tell a single human being that I was doing these because I was still struggling with binge eating, you know. For me, I would have actually been comfortable telling my friends and family if I saw a difference and I was no longer binge eating, but you know, I was still struggling with binge eating and I didn't want anybody to see me differently. And I think that's a lot of the reason why I never even said anything about all of this. I didn't want anybody to see me as helpless or to pity me or to be concerned or worried. And so when I went for these therapy sessions, nobody knew about it. But I guess I started seeing growth within me a lot more quickly before I saw growth externally. And then this one weekend came where my sisters were over and we all went for dinner and I ordered the salad because in my eyes, you know, that was still good food and I wasn't trying to gain weight. Especially since all of them are so thin, like honestly, to have the body positivity to be around them, ugh. So yeah, I ordered a salad. They ordered food that they actually wanted. And for me, I ordered a salad. I was like, okay, cool. I've actually been doing well. And then we went and we got ice cream. For me, I labeled that as a bad food. And so I was freaking out in my mind because I was like, well, I know that once I have this ice cream, it's just going to lead me on a trail of binging for the rest of the night. But because I was with my sisters, I actually didn't even get the chance to go away into secret and binge. And my place is so tiny that like, I couldn't have even snuck off to a different room and binged without them having had noticed. So that night, I'd had my salad, I'd had my ice cream, and I went to bed. And that was literally my first time in like 2 years where I had eaten something which I didn't necessarily label as healthy, and I just enjoyed it and I didn't then spiral down into an episode of binge eating. Like guys, when you've had such a rough relationship with food, this was something that I celebrated so much. I remember going to my therapist and I was so happy. Guys, you have no idea, like I couldn't just eat something like ice cream and it end there. Like I would eat something like ice cream and think I had made such a mistake and just keep going. And so I went to my therapy session and I told her that I had ice cream and that I stopped eating after that. After that weekend, I never once had a moment of binge eating. Every single therapy session I went to, I put 0 times during the week did I binge eat. Like I can't even explain it. It's like this switch just went off within me and I was like, oh my gosh, like I actually can eat food and I don't have to feel bad about it and I can just stop there. And that's something that you guys might be thinking like, of course T, like of course you can eat that type of food and just stop. Like you didn't have to keep going. But guys, it was such an automatic response for me. It was such a cycle. It was such an addiction. I didn't know any better. I didn't know that I could live such a free life with my relationship with food. And so from that moment, I actually started, you know, experimenting. I started eating foods that were giving me good nutrients and then including a dessert at the end of the night and stopping there. And I wasn't losing weight, which was honestly my goal with this whole therapy thing. But I was starting to rebuild my relationship with food and no longer punish myself or hate myself for what I did eat or what I didn't eat. Like one thing I can never take for granted is my relationship with food today, because I can honestly go for dinner with people and you know, I can celebrate somebody's birthday, have cake, and not binge eat after that. Like for me, that's something so casual. Yeah, to go out and eat, that's so casual, but there was a time when I couldn't even do that. Like every now and then I stop and think about how far I've come, and it just floods my heart with so much joy. Like I really could have entered into a permanent depression, but by God's grace, I'm here and I'm actually able to tell you guys about my story, and it's a positive story. It's a story where I honestly had no hope. I honestly didn't think I would get to a place where I had a good relationship with food, where I could eat without all this negativity in my mind. And so if you see me eating and you see me enjoying my life, like, you know, I want you to know that it took so much for me to get here and I don't take it lightly. If there's one thing I can say, it's that I owe it all to my God for holding my hand throughout all of it, that I could turn to my scripture and I could pray And I knew that he loved me, and he called me his daughter, and he said that I'm chosen and I'm loved and I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Even when I hated myself, even when I was disgusted, just so disgusted in the person I was, even when my thoughts were so dark, even when I didn't think that I would ever find peace, I could ever be free, I could ever just eat and there not be a disorder. My God was there for me the entire time. My God held my hand. My God is so good. Like, when you see me as a Christian, when you see me praising God, it's because I have a reason. I know my life could be so much more different right now. I know that He's changed my name, that I'm not the person that I once was, and that I'm so unconditionally loved. I think God allowed me to get to that place where I hit rock bottom because I needed to get professional help. And it's not to say that God is not able to rescue you, that prayer is not powerful. But I think that He wanted therapy to be a part of my story so that I can encourage other people to say that therapy is not a bad thing. It's not something to be ashamed of. Getting help, seeking attention, that's not a bad thing. Your mental health is so important, and quite honestly, poor mental health can lead to so many different issues. And like, if you could just have a taste of how dark it was in my mind, like, because I hated what would be said in here. And today, I'm able to hold my head up high and declare that my Redeemer lives. My God is alive. My God is good. He has good in store for you. All things work together for good. And so if there's anything I can say to anybody, it's please do not underestimate the importance of seeking professional help. Do not underestimate the importance of going to see a therapist, of talking to other people, reaching out, praying with other people, having others tell you that you're loved, you're important, you're special. I want you to know, whoever you are watching this, however dark your thoughts are, you are so important. You are meant to be here in this earth. If you can't tell yourself that you're beautiful, if you can't tell yourself that you're special and you're wonderful, there is a God in heaven who made you and designed you and knows just how many hairs are on your head, and He has nothing but good things in store for you. It's rough right now, but if there's one thing I can tell you, it's that no matter how long it takes, no matter how long you are struggling, there is always a future and a hope for you. Because quite honestly, if you are in a depressing moment, if you are in a season of struggling, staying silent doesn't help. Staying silent just keeps you suffering. I wish I had honestly gotten help sooner. Honestly, I don't even know why I delayed it this much, but it's something I don't regret a day in my life. And this might not be how you overcome binge eating. It might not be that you have a weekend with your sisters and you have ice cream, but maybe it includes going to have therapy, or maybe it includes telling your loved ones. Okay, well, I am back. Sorry, my camera actually died, and then I went and I had lunch, and now I'm back. I don't even remember what the last thing I said was, and I think I was wearing a jacket or something, but okay. That's alright. You guys are actually probably like, this girl is so bipolar. She was crying like 2 seconds ago and now she's so happy. It's because I actually left and then I just came back. So I'm like, I can't be crying when the moment's past me. But anyway, okay, I don't actually remember where I was up to. But yeah, finishing my therapy session was like the best thing and like also the saddest thing, because I actually really did enjoy my therapy sessions. And the best thing is that my therapist had follow-up sessions with me just to see how I was going, and in those follow-up sessions I actually hadn't binged any of the time, and like it's actually been over a year since that time. And I honestly am just like, I love God. Like, I know that some of you guys are not Christians, but guys, if I was not a Christian, I'm not even lying, I don't even know how I would have gotten through that. So yeah, it wasn't actually until completing the therapy sessions that I actually told my family about this, and they had a bunch of different mixed responses. They were proud of me, obviously. They wish that they could have been a part of that with me. They wish they could have shared in my struggle, because we are actually a very close family, and so we do share everything. It's just, yeah, like I said, I really didn't want anybody to see me differently, and I didn't really want to share anything until I had something positive to say. But I guess it's probably not the best to think like that, because staying silent about things is not really going to get you that far. especially if you could have a support system. But then I did have other family members who understood why I embarked on this journey independently without really confiding in them first. For me, that is my story. You know, I don't really know how much more detail I can go in. I don't even want to tell you guys the extent to how much I would eat on a binge, because yeah, like I said, like it would be to the point where I physically couldn't stomach anything. And now, like I just said, like I literally had lunch. I had pasta, and pasta is not something I would have eaten ever in the past, but I literally had pasta. I feel nice and satisfied, and yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead, focus on the next thing for the day, and end up having dinner later on. And I'm somebody who actually enjoys working out these days, not necessarily for weight loss, I guess, you know, but because I like to feel fit and I like to feel strong. And I eat foods that, you know, are going to benefit my body because, you know, I don't know, I enjoy looking after myself, and I'm not eating this way and I'm not working out of guilt and thinking that I'm not good enough. And in saying all of this, you know, it's not like now I'm perfect and now I've reached body positivity and I never have off days. Like, I don't really think it's something that you necessarily say I've arrived, you know. It's an ongoing journey, but I'm in a much better place than I was before. And even when I do stumble, and even when I do think poorly of myself, you know, it's never the extent that it was before. And there have been days where I genuinely have overeaten. There are days, oof, I literally went for like an all-you-can-eat buffet dinner with my sisters when they actually came to visit. Yeah, so there have definitely been times where I've overeaten, but you know, that lifestyle of binge eating, like it's not common to me anymore. And I'm somebody who literally binged so much. Like, guys, there are 52 weeks in a year. Like, imagine if I was binging like weekly. There are 52 weeks in a year. That's enough time for it to really mess with your head. And I'm somebody who really just didn't have faith in themselves, who really thought, okay, maybe this is my fault, and maybe this is just the thing that I'm supposed to live with for the rest of my life. Maybe it's that thing to keep me humble. I don't know, but I'm just living evidence that, you know, if I could get through it, if I could get through an eating disorder, if I could get through, you know, such a depressing moment in my life, you know, a depressing ongoing moment in my life, you know, so can you. The Bible literally says that we overcome through the blood of the Lamb, we overcome through Jesus and through the word of our testimony. And so I needed to do a video where I shared this, because I gain strength when I'm reminded of how far I've come, and I hope that you will gain strength as well. Another quick point that I want to add in there is, guys, let's not be people who are critical of other people. If you notice that somebody's gained weight, if you've noticed that somebody's lost weight, you don't know their internal struggles. You're only seeing them on the external. And it really only added to my negative thinking when people would comment and say, Tendo, you've gained weight, you're looking big, you know, you're way too big to do modeling. And I'm like, look, like, I need to go get help first. I wasn't even telling people that I was doing therapy, but it's just a reminder to be kind to all people. You don't know what somebody's going through, so I don't know. I just feel like it's not really the best thing for you to go about being Mother Teresa and commenting on everybody's bodies. It's their body. You don't know their story. Who are you to judge? Okay, so I'm actually going to finish this video here. I'll say a quick prayer, and then yeah, my air kisses, and I'll be done. Dear God, I just want to thank you for whoever is listening to this video, and I hope I've been able to encourage them in any way, God, that we will not despise getting help, God, and reaching out to other people, and that we'll see ourselves the way that heaven sees us, the way that you see us, and know that we are so loved. In Jesus' name I pray, amen, amen. Okay, my air kisses, and I am done. So, I hope you guys did enjoy that, and I'm going to catch you guys in my next video.